Hey there, Dangas Stu here. Today's video is about visiting Damien and Jess up in Bundaberg on their boat Brupeg, and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. It's a pretty miserable morning in Sydney. It's been raining, nice wet day on the river, so perfect day to head north and get out of Sydney. For those of you who don't know and are wondering why I'm filming a road trip on this channel, Project Brupeg is another large steel trawler that's being fixed up by Damien and Jess. They've been working on it for about 3 years now, I believe. So we're just going to go up there, take a look at their boat, get some ideas, compare notes, and then drive back. I'll film a little bit of the journey on the way up because, you know, it's a chance to see a little bit of country Australia, and then we'll have a good look at the boat when we get there. Sunset now, another, I don't know, 950 kilometres to go I think, so probably won't get there this evening.
Morning, in Walker now, gonna head off. Didn't get that far yesterday because I left quite late, but should make a fair few kilometres today. Glad I didn't sleep in the truck though. It's quite a frost on it this morning. It's obviously a pretty cold night. Alright. Come on baby, start. I know it's cold. No, sorry. A few cows feeding on the long paddock. Oh, don't walk across the road, buddy. Bad timing. Google Maps is saying 9 hours to go, but at this rate it could be a little bit longer.
It's funny, I just stopped in here at, let's have a look, what is it? Texas Takeaway. When I walked in, I walked up to the counter, the first thing the guy said was, oh, I haven't seen you clean out the engine bay yet, so that was pretty funny. Sort of feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere and found a viewer.
I have absolutely no idea where I am now, but it's really nice countryside. Quite relaxing to drive through.
Heaps of these cactuses cropping up too. Cacti, cactuses, cacti, I think. I like it. This is definitely starting to look like Bundaberg territory. Brupeg, see it from here. Looking good. For those of you who don't watch Project Brupeg on YouTube, shame on you, but this is Damien and Jess. Damien and Jess are the owners of Brupeg, and you guys have been working on the boat 3 years or so, I think, and doing an amazing job. So in this video, I'm going to go around, have a good look at Brupeg with Damien and Jess, and I'm just going to pinch all his good ideas.
Fine by me.
So when you got the boat, the engine went down obviously with the boat.
Yep.
And all the aluminium bits were just...
Yeah, so the boat was underwater for 2 months, and it had a lot of aluminium, like had rocker covers, the sump was alloy, had panels on the side of the engine and so on that were alloy, and all of them had gone. Pretty much every piece of aluminium on the boat, if it was underwater it had practically disappeared, and if it was above water it was seriously degraded, like, you know, in and out of the tide, etc. It was seriously degraded. So the old engine, there was just nothing I could save off it. I'd have to buy another engine to be able to rebuild the first one, so it wasn't worth touching. So yeah, we found a complete engine.
And you got this one, yeah, $5 grand or something from Melbourne?
I paid $5 grand for this, sort of sight unseen, fingers crossed, hope like heck it was going to work. And it is a truck engine. So it does have the air compressor on the side here, and it's got the exhaust brakes. I haven't taken those off yet, but
it could be handy though, the air compressor. How
I don't know how powerful it is.
Yeah.
I think my understanding, and I really don't know about this, but my understanding is it's a very high PSI, low volume.
Gotcha.
I think it's like 200 PSI, but quite
Just enough for airbags and this kind of thing brakes, So Cummins?
Yeah, so it's a Cummins 855. It's an intercooled turbo 350 horsepower engine. It's got a lot of torque. I think it's, from memory, it's 1350 newton meters of torque. So there's a stack of torque out of it.
Huge, isn't it?
Doesn't have a huge rev range. It idles at 600 and it's tapped out at 1800, so it's only 1200 revs.
Usable range.
But that's okay, because I mean, constant revs, most of the time it's probably sitting at 1200, 1400, something like that.
Yeah. And so one thing I've got to do now is I want to rejig the engine mounts for my Detroit diesel. So you had obviously the mounting rails, and then you made up the
all
brackets, and then
all of the beams and everything that were in the boat were original, and then all of these black mounts front and back, I made those, and I got them slotted so that I could adjust the engine and
slightly around.
dimension.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we can move it forward and back and side to side, and I can twist it. So and that was really, I didn't realise how valuable that was.
Gotcha.
So when I aligned the shaft, you're allowed to have, so if you've got a flange that's say 6 inches across, you're allowed 6 thou of alignment, so 1 thou per inch.
Oh, okay, that's your tolerances for it.
And as you know, as in misalignment, 1 thou per inch is acceptable.
Okay.
So we've got a 12-inch flange, so we can have up to 12 inches of a 12th thou of misalignment, which to me, being an engine reconditioner, sounded insane.
Right.
Why would you have that much?
You've got reasonably solid assumed mounts for your height?
Yeah, so the engine's solid mounted to the boat, which is pretty standard for trawlers and boats like this sort of size and so on. We looked at rubber mounting when we first did this, and it was going to be about 10 grand to get all the mounts that we needed to do it. And thinking about exactly, my thoughts exactly. Thinking about it now, I probably would do rubber mounts. If I was doing it again, I probably would do rubber mounts, but I would build them myself.
Yes.
And I would, because one of the reasons why the mounts were so expensive, there was 4 mounts, and they have to be able to take side loading for thrust.
Yes.
But I think about things laterally, and I sort of thought, well, why can't I just put a vertical
to stop the thrust?
Like build some sort of version of a vertical thing. So if I was doing it again, I would do it myself, and I'd find some sort of truck engine mount or something that's pretty beefy and do it that way. And then just and then get the rubber coupler and all that.
So you have a dry exhaust, which you built yourself?
Yes, I did.
And so how did you go about sort of figuring, like choosing your muffler and like this sort of stuff? Did you?
It's going to sound dodgy.
I
got on.
Nothing sounds dodgy on my channel compared to.
I got on eBay and I figured, what's the biggest muffler I could buy?
Yeah,
that was it. There's no science in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I was told when you're setting up your exhaust to go 1 inch bigger than the outlet of your turbo. So we got a 5-inch outlet. And so theoretically 6-inch
exhaust.
However, I didn't know that when I built the exhaust.
Right.
So I thought, 5-inch outlet, 5-inch pipe. So it's a 5-inch exhaust all the way through.
It's a pretty obvious conclusion to draw.
And that muffler is actually a 4-inch straight through muffler.
Right.
But I welded it into the 5-inch system, thinking, it's going to give me a bit more back pressure than I probably want, and all that sort of stuff. But I thought, I'm not pulling nets, I'm not doing anything. I'm just cruising. I thought, I got nothing to lose. I got the muffler, so put it in. If it doesn't work, I'll take it out.
Nothing's, nothing. If you can build it, you can rebuild it.
Absolutely. I was concerned about noise. I thought the straight through muffler, because it's the only silencer in the whole system. And I thought the straight through silencer was not going to do anything. And I was thinking, geez, a big, I come from a racing car background. I was thinking a 5-inch, basically straight through mandrel pipe. It's going to sound like a bloody aircraft carrier. So, but honestly, 95% of the noise is the engine, and you can stand beside the exhaust and you can hardly hear it. That's
something I'm actually really starting to realise in doing the wet exhaust, dry exhaust comparison and all this stuff. People go on about exhaust, but as you say, 95% is direct mechanical noise from the engine. Insulate the actual engine bay. And
You really,
Makes a huge
honestly, you don't have to even factor, like you could go without a muffler and you probably wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah.
You don't have to factor in noise on the exhaust, there is none.
Yeah,
in fact,
it's mechanical noise.
So much so, we tried to record the engine noise from the muffler. We had a microphone right inside it and never picked anything up.
Can't get it. Yeah, you can't record it. Yeah. Oh, this is where you've got your wonderful multiple hot swap filtering system, which I'm definitely going to have to upgrade to at some stage. So Damien's got his fuel filters set up in parallel, so you can switch them. So if they block, you can switch, open another one, close the other one, clean them the whole time you're underway, which is a great system.
And people often ask why we've got one filter after the next. You know, surely the second filter's not doing anything, but they're actually staggered in size. So the first filter is 10 micron, the second filter is 2 micron. So they're progressively getting smaller as the fuel goes through.
It's crazy, yeah.
And then you have a screw-on filter up on the engine just here, which I think is about 10 microns, something like that anyway. So theoretically, that should never be doing anything.
Yeah.
Everything should be done down the back because these are easily serviceable filters, whereas this one, it's screw on and replace. So they're a bit of a pain to have to keep stockpiles of those, where it's easier to keep the smaller filters.
Gotcha. Yeah. These are the inspection hatches to two of Damien's fuel tanks. So similar size hatches to my fuel tanks, but so much room, I'm jealous, Damien. I want this much room to walk around the engine bay. And up here is top of the rudder post and the steering gear.
So it's got 2 rams basically just to give it more force on that rudder.
Right, okay. And it is a big rudder. We'll have a look at the size of the rudder on the prop when we go down the bottom, but it's huge.
So you installed all these sensors?
Yeah, so this is our water temp up here. We've got 2, we've got one up in the engine and then one down on the bottom for keel cooling, so we can see how efficient our system is. They're all the red arc gauges as well. This is an exhaust probe that we put in for EGT, exhaust gas temp. So this is really important for us because we run the boat on waste cooking oil, and we need to know exactly how much load the engine's under, and the engine exhaust temp really gives us an idea of that. So having this probe tells us what sort of load the motor's under. Because if we start to underload the motor, so if we don't have enough, strain on the engine, etc., we actually have to switch back to diesel because it can cause damage by using the Veggie Oil. So this is a really critical gauge for us, and we do have spares of this one so that if anything does happen, we can swap it out really quickly so that we never put the motor at risk.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
A lot to learn about running on Veggie Oil. We'll have to chat about that later on.
Yeah, no worries.
So Damien, I've got to do my electrics next. It's my big challenge. So show me what you got.
So this is our main starting battery. We will be putting a second one in, but for now it's just a single 12 volt 200 amp hour battery. We use red arc for all of our gauges, so when we power up you can sort of see the gauges doing their thing. One of the things I really like about these gauges in particular, so if you look at the volt gauge, if the voltage drops for whatever reason, it'll do that. So it'll let you know what gauge is having a fault, and it'll also beep so you can sort of hear it. Put the fuse back in and you can see it jump back up.
They are very nice gauges. We've got gauge envy now.
They're pretty awesome, eh? I'm pretty stoked with those. So that's all about our sort of engine room controls. And then around this side you can sort of see we've got we use Blue Sea. So this is a Blue Sea box. We use these just because they're so easy to wire up with your negatives at the top and your fused positives at the bottom. So you got your 12 volt feed down here and then your 12 volt negative up the top. And then we just chuck a little hour gauge in as well.
Hour gauges are handy for so many things.
Yeah.
People recommend running them like on your bilge pumps, so you just know how long it's been running for.
Yeah,
and just
right.
Wherever you got power, you can just start measuring.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just don't leave the key on, I've realised.
Your hours clocking up, yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. All the wiring and everything is contained behind here. The only thing I would suggest is make sure you get yourself some decent resonant fused heat shrink connectors, because this is an area of the boat that's open to atmosphere. So we've got 4 engine vents that come into this room, so there's nothing to stop sea air coming into this room. We always sort of consider this room to be exterior, and that way, if we think of it that way, we wire
it's a good way to go,
we wire accordingly and paint accordingly. And
it's a good way to think about it, just a mindset of that up.
Yeah.
And so you were showing me before, the red arc gauges are actually digital, and under here, it'll be worth having a look at.
Oh,
yeah, just a little quick look.
Crack that open. So we haven't finished the side of it yet, but this little box here. Bang. So this little box here, we've basically got like copper conductors coming down into this box, and then this converts the feed from the boost gauge, or feed for the boost gauge, and the exhaust gas temp. So if you have a look under there, you can see a little green plug just down the back there. That's the feed for the EGT gauge, the exhaust gas temp. And this black line here is just a rubber pipe. That's a boost gauge pipe. So that'll have a negative or a positive pressure. Comes into this box and converts it into digital, and then heads off from there up to the gauges.
The gauges there will digital run after that.
Yeah. And one thing that was really awesome is because we're running 2 gauges off a single sender, Red Arc were fantastic in terms of like tech support to actually help us understand how to do that. That's something that I really liked about it was, you know, if you buy a gauge just off the shelf at a car shop or something and you don't really know much about it, and you want to do something weird with it, like extend the wiring loom or add additional gauges or whatever it may be, it's a bit hard to understand how to do it. But these guys, because they designed the gauge, they know exactly the implications, so it was brilliant being able to talk to them and figure out how to do all of that.
Nice. So, and then once you come from your fuse box here,
so power basically is from this battery. It sort of comes down through our cable trace here and then through our conduit, flexi conduit going forward.
Yep.
And we use, if I can just pull it out, so you can sort of see there's 2 cables, a grey and a white. That grey, big round grey one, is an 18 conductor conduit, and then the white one over the back is just a positive and negative. So that allows us to keep a lot of cabling very, very tidy. You can sort of see the 2 cables, probably easier to see it there. So this one here has 18 1mm conductors inside it. And then when they come out, they split out into these boxes. So these are our connector panels, these are our resin infused heat shrink terminals. And these things are brilliant. They're one of the best things you can put on a boat. That's the alternative, is a non-heat shrink jobby. And the only reason we've used these is because we couldn't get heat shrink ones for that size. So when you do it, you heat shrink, you crimp it all up, and then fill the end up with liquid electrical tape, and you shouldn't have any dramas with corrosion around that.
and then this all heads up through here to your wheelhouse?
Yeah, so from this box, we've got a 3-inch stainless mandrel bent exhaust pipe that we welded in to basically take all of the piping up into the wheelhouse. We use stainless rather than like plastic or anything like that, is because if this room floods, we don't want any possibility that this can break and then let water into the room next door.
Yep.
So everything's double continuous welded. This is welded around here, double continuous around here. This will have a waterproof front on it. We've got waterproof glands for all the cabling. So yeah, there's basically this room theoretically should be able to fill up, and we won't theoretically have water go into the next room.
Next room. Nice. While we're here, this is the old freezer room that Damien's going to convert into more accommodation. And hot water, luxury.
That was a bloody awesome thing to put in the boat.
Not bad. We're off.
I've got to build some foot mounts for it as
Yes,
well.
yeah, they are quite comfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies sell just bolt-on.
Yeah.
I
was going to make a mount that goes on that wall, and then also maybe a drop-down stainless thing
from here, depending on what mode you're in.
When you get in, you can kind of put your foot in and then hook yourself up, like getting a horse.
Getting in. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just getting comfy in Damien's wheelhouse chairs. I'm impressed. So, Damien, you said you got these from Super Cheap.
Yeah, these race seats were just basically on special. I saw them one day and thought, they'll do awesome.
Yeah. And like everything, you look at the price of marine stuff, and it's like through the roof.
I wanted to. I did want to have some with armrests.
Yep.
And
this is actually quite a nice armrest here.
I built that height on purpose. So I'm gonna put another table the same height, and then on this side of this one, I'll do. So both of them will have armrests, etc. So
but useful ones rather than just.
So this will be a little table with cup holders and things, and we can lift it up and have storage.
Cup holders. Yeah. Man after my heart.
Yeah.
So this isn't your wheelhouse. This is a bridge.
Yeah, this is the bridge.
The bridge. I'm impressed. It's quite a good view around too. Oh, and having windows.
Yeah, so there's 15 windows around.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like being in an airport control tower.
It is, yeah.
View everywhere. So the only negative that in terms of vision up here is that because we've got the big rear roof. So the rear roof's 8.5 meters by 5 meters.
Yeah.
and because we've got that, we literally can't see down the sides of the boat from
Right,
from up
okay.
here.
So you can't see the quarters right where they are.
And I can't see over the back of the boat or anything like that. So
okay.
The plan for that is just cameras.
Cameras,
so we're gonna,
why not?
On the sides of the wheelhouse roof, we're going to have 2 facing forward and 2 facing back, so we can see right down both sides of the boat. And then we'll also have one right on the rear roof looking back, so I can see pretty much the transom and then everything.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Because you have enough cameras that you can just drive wearing VR goggles. And never actually look at it.
And one of the things, so Brupeg has a huge amount of tech on it, and it will get more and more as we go. When we go into the ice, we have to be able to look for ice flows. So Brupeg's design is to basically go into the Antarctic and through the Northwest Passage. So that's what everything around the boat is built for. And one of the things that we need, particularly in the Northwest Passage more so than Antarctic, is we need to be able to look for ice flows where you might have sea ice, just sheets of ice, and there might be a crack, and that's what we need to be able to push through that crack to go forward. But if it stops in 100 metres and we can't see that, we'll be just shunting straight into ice and not be able to go. So we have to know if there's a long ice lead. So for us, we're going to be putting a FLIR camera, infrared camera, at the top of the radar mast looking forward, so that we can actually see the real definition of ice and actually see potentially...
right, with the infrared camera you get a sense of the gas. That's a good idea.
So there's that side of it as well, but also drones. So for us, drones are really important to be able to get us, sort of 200, 300 metres or so, and then actually get a real good visual as to where the ice is sitting and what side of the bays we need to go on, and because sometimes you might be travelling down a fjord and one side is jam-packed, another side there's a very narrow lead up the shore or something, so we need to
until
know
you get high enough you can't see it. Yeah, it was funny, I was talking to Damien saying how the Raymarine sat-nav I'm putting in is compatible with certain drones, so you can get your drone footage on the sat-nav and you can send the drone to a waypoint, and how it's good for like spotting tuna and fish and all this kind of stuff. And Dave was like, no, I need to spot gaps in the ice.
Can it find ice?
It's, 2 different destinations.
Yeah.
So this obviously is all pretty new. Like, it looks brand new.
It's all brand new.
It was just gutted, and
this, when we bought it, this was just a rusty room. There was 13 windows in it when we bought it, and probably 6 of them had rusted out on the bottoms of the sills. They had the, similar to your boat, they had the rubber, whatever you call it, the rubber
seals around it,
and they'd been leaking, and they'd put about 15 tubes of silicone on to try and seal them up, but they just encapsulated seawater, and it rusted through the steel, so we had to chop the bottoms of the windows off and replace them all. And also, similarly, because this had been underwater, the original 6mm windows had an aluminium frame around them, and the frames had all corroded, so pretty much every window in one way or another was buggered. We needed to either pull it out to fix rust and replace seals, or we needed to get new frame, etc. So that was the reason why we decided to just knock the whole lot out and rebond them all.
Redo it, yeah. No, it looks awesome now. So I guess all that aluminium on the boat was sort of act as an extra anode. Although your anodes were all intact, weren't they? Which is interesting.
My anodes are intact because the windows weren't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the aluminium went before the zinc.
Yeah, engine and windows went before the anodes.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah. All right, so should we have a little look at your dash?
Yeah, cool.
So you're going a PC setup, so you've got 2 computer screens?
Yeah.
And that's to give you redundancy mostly?
Yeah, so basically it's cost. So I would rather spend less on the PCs themselves and more on the navigation system, rather than have like a proprietary multifunction unit or something like that, where I'm kind of locked into a system and I'm locked into their screens and all that sort of stuff.
Sure, So you can have... So you're going to be running CMAP, did you say?
Yeah, so we'll use CMAP, and then all of our radar gear and everything will be compatible with PC as well. So we can overlay AIS, radar, navigation, CMAP, etc. Yeah.
Everything on it. And then you can have... So you'll have redundancy, and there's 2 PCs, but you'll be able to use them together, like one screen's CMAP, one screen's,
radar or something.
Whatever radar.
Yeah,
and then, but if one goes down, you can see everything on either screen.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to set it up. I don't know a lot about this sort of stuff yet. But the plan is, with everything on Brupeg, we have to have a minimum of two layers of redundancy. So if something dies, we have to have a backup system. None of that is set in stone because we're not a boat that's in survey. But it's just more the fact that we don't want to die. So if we have,
it's a fair fair goal.
If we have 2 systems, we've got more chance of getting back. So the plan is basically 2 redundant hard drives running like 2 independent PCs, and then we'll have our 2 screens. The screens are pretty robust; they don't really. And if one dies, we can easily make it back without a screen. But yeah, so they'll be hooked up. The PCs will probably be under the seats over here in the middle somewhere, so that we can do whatever we need to do to it. Yeah, and then everything else is. I mean, most of the stuff on this boat is custom built, and it's not because we want to do that. It's just because either you either can't buy half the stuff we need, or if you can buy it, it's astronomically expensive. You know, like we looked at an electronic throttle for this, and it was $9,000, and so for us, it's just not possible to do that. You know, so we had to come up with a solution to that, and it was build our own.
I was quite impressed with your design.
Yeah.
Have you got a video on that one?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't built it. It's something that I'm definitely going to be doing soon. So our engine and gearbox used to be Morse controlled, and we've got too many curves and bends, and it's too far to the engine, so we have to make it electronic. So rather than spend a lot of money for an off-the-shelf proprietary thing that has no redundancy built in, for less than $500, we built our own conversion, and it has multiple independent power supplies, multiple throttle position sensors, multiple servos down at the engine end, and every single thing is not a dependent system. So if any one part of it breaks, there's automatically a second system that is up and running to keep us all functional.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool system. I'm pretty chuffed with it.
Yeah, I was skeptical. Then you described it to me in the car yesterday. I'm like, all right, I'm sold.
Yeah. When I first started doing it, I was like, this is built out of radio controlled car parts. How on earth is people going to believe me that this will work? Yeah. So this is our instrument panel. It's nowhere near finished yet, but we've got red arc gauges here, engine RPM, and this is our depth and speed. We're going to add a few more. We've got rudder position. There'll be oil pressure going in here. As well as oil pressure for the engine and oil pressure for the gearbox, as well as temperature for the oil as well. So there's quite a few more gauges that we need to start stacking in. But the plan is with Brupeg is to keep this dash as clear as possible. So there'll be no switches, there'll be no anything on this dash. It's literally just going to be a flat bench. And then above the seats, if we spin around, so you got your two seats here. And then on the roof, we're going to be having all of our switches and
nice.
everything. So, bit
aircraft style.
Yeah.
A
bit like a plane. So, the goal is when you're sitting in the driver's seat here in the helm, you can reach anything. You can turn all your nav lights on and off. You can switch between radars. You can even flick between System 1 and System 2 on the throttle or
nice.
on the gearbox. Or everything is controlled from here.
Which is nice, particularly given you're on autopilot most of the time when you're cruising. You don't need to actually reach the wheel. You just need to reach everything else.
And one of the other things is we didn't set this seat up to be real comfortable to steer. We set the seat up to be really comfortable to have a great view. And then if you're in a marina or something and you actually need to be concentrating and steering, you just stand. Like you stand next to your wheel, totally. You've got your throttle right beside you.
Because a lot of the time you're ducking from your port starboard windows, ducking out, looking, you know. Yeah, you don't want to be seated.
So we kind of realised early on that it's not like a car where you're sitting in the chair to drive. You're very much sitting in the chair to get a view, and then if you want to drive, you're up standing and you're concentrating and so on. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I really like the idea of the the raised
switches.
Yeah, definitely.
And it also clears up the wheelhouse as well. Like if you're gonna say, okay, well, where do I put all my switches, and you start running out of real estate real fast on a dash, you don't have a lot of room to work with.
No.
Even in a boat this big, we've only got a little panel to work with, so it's difficult to try and get everything in. You might have 50 switches, so up here we can just keep extending. We can go across the roof. There's no real limitation.
Makes sense. Damien's under the floor of the wheelhouse now, and the electrical panel here is very similar to the first panel I'll be putting in when I get back to my boat. So
it's pretty simple. We've got our batteries over here. We've got 4 12 volt 200 amp hour batteries. So they're hooked up as essentially two 24 volt banks. So all up we've got 24 volt 400 amp hour or 200 amp hour usable, because these are AGMs. All the power flows in through this big feed here and goes down through a 125 amp fuse. And the power actually splits off into this terminal and this terminal, which are linked. So we've got 24 in here, 24 in there. When we put our inverter in, we'll run a separate fuse in here, which will be maybe like a 3, 4, 500 amp fuse, depending on what the inverter needs. And then, so all of our 24 volt load for the boat goes through this 125 amp fuse, and the inverter will come off here. Our main power feed basically runs up into a main on-off switch, which we can then, and then our positive, even though this is a black cable, ignore that, that's just heat shrink. This is a positive cable that comes down to a positive bus bar that we can then start taking 24 volt load off. We have our solar, so this is our on-off switch for our solar, and our 4 Victron charge controllers. So these Victrons, I've been absolutely stoked with these. These have been absolutely brilliant. The way that they work, they're structured so that we have 8 solar panels, so 2 panels per Victron. The reason we've done that is so that we have the highest efficiency system for shading. So if one panel is shaded, we don't lose much efficiency because it's just one charge controller that's affected. The flip side is we also have massive redundancy, so it's very, very difficult for us to lose our solar chargeability, because if a controller dies, we've only lost 25% of our controllers. If a panel dies, we've only lost, again, 25% of our solar, and we can always start rewiring panels if we really desperately need to. So these all feed down into a single positive bus bar, which then that positive comes up into our solar on-off switch, into our main on-off switch, and then from there down into our positive bus bar. The reason we've got it set up like this is it means if we turn this one switch off, everything goes off, so no solar, no anything. So the entire boat can be isolated with one switch, and also likewise we can isolate all of our solar with this one switch, but still maintain battery power. So it gives us a bit of flexibility into how we can troubleshoot and how we can sort of isolate things on the boat later on. Everything then feeds through, so from 24 volts here, we go down into the way we've got a golf cart 12 volt to 24 volt to 12 volt DC converter, and this has a maximum capacity of 30 amps. So that 30 amps comes up into a Blue Seas box, and that feeds everything DC on the boat. So everything that we're running DC is pretty much low stuff. It's lights, USB charge ports. There's nothing that's really high draw. So one 30 amp controller is more than enough to do everything that we need. From there, they basically head off and go to various things. So we've got lights in freezer room, we've got all of the lighting up in the front of the boat, engine room, lounge, etc. We also have another one that we haven't hooked up yet, which is a 24 to 6 volt 10 amp converter, and this is for all of our throttle systems. So this is one of the independent power supplies for our throttle system. So there will be another one sitting right beside, and then these two will head off through fuses and up to our system up the top, so that we can start to set up our throttle. So that's coming up in a video shortly.
Right, yeah, I'm looking forward to your throttle.
Yeah.
And your video this week's on your solar setup.
Yeah, so this week we're basically showing, so we've got 2 solar videos out. So the first one is how to set, sorry, it's not how to set this board up, it's how to set the panels up and how to do all the wiring and make sure that side of it's spot on. And then the second side is how to do this board, how to make sure that your charge controllers are working, how to set up all of your wiring, your fuses, your switches, that sort of thing. I've done quite a few boat solar systems now, and I'm not trained or qualified in it. It's just trial and error, what works and what didn't, and it's real practical, it's sort of trial by error stuff, and what really works. I've tried a stack of different panels and different charge controllers and things like that, and I have to say the system that we've got now is hands down probably the most effective system that I've ever created. And it's a brilliant system. I can't fault it. I can't find anything to fault on it at the moment.
You'll get that video up before I have to do mine, won't you?
I hope so.
Thanks, mate.
So all of the charge controller cabling basically runs up through these flexi conduits, and then we've got solid conduit that it runs all the way down through the lounge or saloon, and then basically up along here, and then we've got household DC breakers in here. So these are just placeholders at the moment. We're yet to put the proper breakers in, but we can flick those and turn the solar panels off. So this is just the positives coming in, being fused, and then positives going out through these breakers. And it's just a way for us to be able to control the panel. So if we want to isolate the panels, we can turn them off here. The controllers are still running. If we want to turn the controllers off, we can flick that main switch in the electrics box, and then the entire renewable system is isolated. That switch also does our wind turbines as well. So when we hook the wind turbines up, they'll be feeding through that main switch as well. So we can kill all renewables with that switch. Yeah. And then from there, they basically run through this bulkhead to a sealed box, through a couple of cable glands, and up onto a box that we have on the roof. And this box is just a small box sort of glued onto the roof there, and the panel mounts over top. So the box is protected from anything hitting it above. It doesn't really get any rain on it because the panel's right above it, and then all of the wiring and everything from there splits out to all of the different panels.
So these are your cells?
Yeah, so we got about 1.9 kilowatts of solar up here. There's 7 panels of 8, and that's because one panel got flung off in 80 knots of wind and landed 250 metres away in about 90 pieces. So we're trying to track down a replacement the same size. But yeah, the cells are pretty set up. So they're set up in pairs. So we've got, as I say, we've got 7 cells. So we've got 3 pairs of 2. So one here, and then these 2 here, and then there's going to be another 2 down the back. And the reason we've done that is for shading. So for example, the exhaust here is shading that panel right there. So these 2 here are going to be lower efficiency. So the reason we have them all isolated is because these won't be getting affected at all by the exhaust, but those ones are. So if we had them all hooked up in series, every panel would be getting affected because of that one shading spot.
It's interesting to think of that, like the fact that if they're in series, that one cell down really affects the whole array then.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important, particularly on boats. One of the best things that I can suggest on a boat is, if you're setting up a solar system, is try and have individual panels as opposed to plugging them all together and having one big long string. Particularly on yachts where you have like masts and booms and lots of shading potential.
Makes sense. Dry exhaust.
Yep. I'd love to.
That's a nice car.
Because it's so quiet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Damien's anchor winch, which is hydraulic. I think your last video, wasn't it, on getting this all plumbed in, hydraulics plumbed in?
Yeah, it was.
And a lot of people have said for me, maybe I should consider going hydraulic for the winch, and I can really see the advantages of it. I did look it up, and there's a PTO hydraulic winch you can get for the Detroit diesels. I think they're about $1,500 US plus an adapter plate. But the ability then to run maybe some salvage gear on the back deck, run your anchor winch at the front, it's actually pretty tempting. And this is just your up-down control, Damien, and you're still working on a clutching mechanism for here you're going to make yourself. But
yeah, so the clutching mechanism is just basically a bolt with a big flat plate that acts like a brake and jams up against that gypsy there.
Yep, nice. This is something else I've got to look at, because at the moment my bow roller is actually right on top of the bulwark, so whether I cut through and have a bit more salt water coming on the boat, or whether I have it still angled up, is yet to be decided.
Yeah.
I've got a few photos of designs where it does actually go right over the top, because I've got less freeboard than you, so I think I'll actually get a lot of water through if I do this. But it is interesting to see how that's done on this boat, because that's definitely a design I can copy.
If you've got decent scuppers, I don't think you need to be too concerned about water
Just
over the bow.
water rushing, yeah.
Work boats are generally pretty wet.
That's it. Yeah. So when Damien was talking about being okay having water coming over the bow because you've got your scuppers, I actually currently don't have anything to deflect the water out these forward scuppers, so it would literally, water would roll all the way to the aft deck for me. So that's something worth thinking about, even if it was half as high, even for me, just something that hopefully people don't trip over, but just to have that water going straight overboard. Because there's not a lot of room between the outside of the cabin here and the bulwark outside, Damien's made this really cool hinge. So the door open and then swing this way. There's nowhere near enough room to have a full swinging door, and Damien was saying that the sliding doors often leak. So we fabbed up this very cool hinge. The door's still going to be made. This is a mock-up door. You're making an aluminium door frame, aren't you?
It'll be an aluminium door frame with alloy dogs and stainless latches and everything.
Yeah, nice. But it's such a great mechanism for having that limited space. That's very cool. I'm impressed. I haven't done anything with my hatch since I first cut it out. It's still just a single piece of steel. A lot of people were saying cut it in half, it's too big, and I think I will. Damien's got a bifold, or not bifold, sorry, just a split door here, and he's made his own hinges on it so it goes flush against the outside. And the hinges here are just this sort of teardrop or aerofoil almost type shape. Damien made them himself. I'm going to copy his design because I'm too lazy to think myself, and I'm even too lazy to make them, so I'm thinking of drawing them up and seeing if I can just get them laser cut, but they just work really well. So I think I'm going to cut my door in half and have these hinges so I can open the outside on both sides.
Yeah, good with me.
All right, we've had a good look inside the boat with Damien. Now we're going to have a look at the outside with Jess. So, crash bulkhead.
Yeah, Dame not long ago actually cut the floor out inside, and we thought it was okay, but when we closed up these and did some cleaning, we came up with a bit of a hole.
A few pinholes, yeah.
So we're going to have to open up again, so that's one of the jobs before we go in the water.
Yep. And so your crash bulkhead comes to this, where's your weld line? You've got a bulkhead down this way, is it? Oh, that's right, it's right on this line.
Pretty much on that rust
It
line.
really is right between them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's purely just to absorb damage without...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can rupture the hull with a direct frontal impact and the boat still is completely intact.
Yeah, nice.
And there's a pipe that you can actually open from the cofferdam
Yeah.
to check if this is filling up with water.
Right, so if
you
you
don't
open
have
it
to-
and no water comes out...
Yeah,
then-
you're right,
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. That's a nice,
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
know.
Yeah, really good, really good.
And your anodes are current. I was actually going to weld my anodes on as well. But I
We're
think
actually going to
Damien's-
change them.
You're going
to
to change
bolts,
them, yeah.
Yeah, we'd really like to. It's just we probably won't have time before we go in the water this
Right.
time. But when we haul out in New Zealand, we'll do it.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a big job though.
Yes,
I
grinding
think
them
there's
all
like
off. And
16, something like
yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah.
And you were saying there's a radius they do, like 1.5 meters or something.
Yeah,
so you've got
1.5, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So 1.5 meters, and as long as you've got, so as long as they're more than less than 3 meters apart.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that. I'd heard a certain volume, but it's interesting to hear their radius too. So that's good to know.
I found it hard to get information, but I researched it really thoroughly and talked to lots of guys and
I love to outsource. Thank you.
yeah, research done.
Excellent work.
And the thing I fell in love with first with the boat
Yeah.
is the bow line.
Yes,
I
it's
just
interesting,
loved
isn't it? Yeah.
It's not really big and wide. It's quite.
No.
It cuts through waves really well, but it's nice
Yes.
size.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting, like the way you see ships with their bulbous bow to get, I think they get the waves out of phase to cancel each other out. It's actually got that, almost like a hint of that style of
Yeah.
ship bow as well.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
And you guys added
Yep.
the reinforcing for the anchor?
Yeah, make it a bit stronger.
Yeah, nice.
There's some jobs that are really fun, and that was one of them. You're up high and
Yeah,
lots of welding. It was great fun.
it's a bit taller than my boat, that's for sure. I'm not good with heights either, so.
Yeah. You being on the hard stand, you really get to experience the heights. That's for sure.
Yeah, and mine's actually sitting very low, so working on the keels, a real like on your back sort of thing.
Oh, that's
so
tiring, yeah.
Yeah, the sandblaster came and go, oh, could you have got it any lower for me? Sorry. That's what happens when you do it yourself.
Yeah.
So these patches, what was the story behind these?
Yeah, so that's the Veggie Oil
Right.
storage tank.
Tanks, yep.
But it can alternate. It can go to diesel if we
As
need
well,
to.
right, yeah.
But the idea is that we've got 2 tanks at the front here. That's Veggie Oil storage. The next 2 are water
Yep,
storage.
yep.
And the 2 at the back are diesel. And
Right,
then there's a
okay.
day diesel tank in the engine bay as well.
Cool. Oh, that's a good separation then, just...
When we go to the ice, I don't think we'll have the water tanks. I think we'll have them as diesel
Right. Oh, because you
or
can just
oil because
melt,
we need it. Yeah,
get
and we'll
fresh
have
water easily.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
never
and
thought
we'll have a
about
water
that.
maker as well.
Right, okay, yeah. And did you cut these open?
Yeah.
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 And that was just to get in and do the tanks?
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
no inspection hatches you can fit through for these tanks?
No.
Right.
Well, you can actually, but we needed to get really good access because
Right.
it needed quite a bit of work. So tidying and painting. And
Oh, and you blasted in there, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That wouldn't be much fun.
Yeah, everything taken down to blast.
To
paint.
bare metal, yeah. Welded up, ready to go. That's always a nice moment.
Yeah, it was so cool when they cut it out. You know,
Yeah.
like it popped really loudly.
Yeah, all right.
And of course, when they go
Oh,
in
so it was
as
under a
well,
bit of tension.
Yeah, going back
Yeah.
in, it was really tough too. There was a lot of tension they had to use.
I think
a
I
lot of
watched the
levers.
video with your dogs and your levers,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
getting it all,
Yeah, it was
all
cool.
happening. And then this is the start of your keel cooling.
Yeah.
So this is another difference with our 2 boats, in that I currently have a heat exchanger and Damien and Jess have keel cooling, so fresh cooling water from the engine just gets pumped straight through all these pipes, and then they act as the radiator in the seawater, which is a pretty bulletproof, no salt water, no openings.
Yeah. And
nice
this is
way to
coming
go.
off when we do our pull out for
Because
the ice.
the ice,
Yeah.
So great in the tropics and the reef, but
Yeah.
a bit of a worry when ice is running down the side of the boat.
Yeah, so we have 3 systems on this. So this is generator.
Yep.
Further down the back.
okay.
Yeah,
So separate circuits.
Separate circuits. So this is generator. Further down the back, we've got gearbox oil cooling.
Yep.
And then on the other side of the boat, we've got stack loads of pipes, and that's
Nice.
main engine cooling.
So the gearbox oil goes, is it a heat exchanger? with-
Gearbox water. Goes,
Water, yeah.
Sorry. Generator water
Yep.
through here, and gearbox oil.
So the oil actually goes through the
Yeah.
pipes.
So it's
Gotcha.
oil cooled. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So rather than a freshwater heat exchanger for the oil, it's
Yeah,
the oil
yeah,
itself. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So originally the gearbox comes with a fresh, like an engine coolant freshwater heat
Yeah,
exchanger.
yep.
But yeah, I mean, you've got thin metal and it's easy to corrode. And you've got to have pumps and all that sort of stuff. And, and with this system, there's no pumps. There's nothing to corrode. It's thick wall, 6mm.
yeah,
pipe.
really thick wall. Yeah.
You can completely encapsulate this in weed and it'll still cool the engine.
Still cool,
Like
yeah.
it's almost impossible to break it.
I've got water in my gearbox oil.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking it's potentially a hole in the heat exchanger
Right.
for the gearbox oil.
Yeah.
It's almost tempting just to run those pipes through the hole once out of the
Yeah.
water and just do a single like keel cooling for the
Yeah.
gearbox oil. Just obviously top the oil level up to match whatever the capacity of the pipe is. Yeah.
It's such a simple system and
Yeah.
it's bulletproof. Like, I don't know of any. I can't think of any commercial boats. I can think of one commercial boat out of dozens that
Yeah.
have a wet exhaust. Everyone.
Yeah, everything's got keel cooling.
Everything is basically a keel
Keel
cool
cool,
system.
yeah. No, it is very tempting. I guess I always sort of had a feeling that it was exposed and vulnerable in some way. But when you're saying 6mm thick steel
Yeah.
and
Well,
all
this-
this, like, and this skims, so you've got the
Yeah.
fairing to
And to put it in context, Brupeg sunk. She laid over on its side, and these took the entire weight of the boat.
weight of the boat. Yeah.
So-
The other thing is, as a diver, like often I'd go on dives and they'll hang decompression tanks from the bottom of the boat.
Right.
It actually gives you a place
Yeah.
to even
Oh,
hang some
yeah.
tanks,
Yeah, right.
or
Good
you know,
idea.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
and even when you're doing your decompression, to have something to hold on to, you know,
Yeah,
like I've
yeah.
actually thought about putting some railings under
Right.
the boat for diving.
Yeah. Right.
So why not have those railings also be
Yeah.
keel cooling? You know,
I've seen a few different ways of doing keel cooling as well. I've literally seen keels being used as cooling.
Yeah.
So there was a yacht that was out here a while ago, and it actually had 3 keels. It had a long main keel, and
Yeah.
then it had 2 sort of bilge keels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they were hollow, full of water.
Full of water,
And they
yeah.
were the actual cooling system.
so they serve two purposes once again. That's pretty cool. So that's something definitely to think about.
Yeah.
Now this reminds me, Jess. Veggie oil. Tell me about veggie oil.
Oh God, I love this part of the boat.
There you go.
But oh my gosh, it's taken a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plan is you start the motor on diesel because it's got to warm up.
Right, got to get to temperature.
Yeah, and once it's at temperature, you can switch over to, and we're doing straight veggie oil. We're not doing a biodiesel. We're not altering it at all. It's
Okay,
staying
it's
in
just veggie oil.
So it's getting
Yep.
dried out. It's
Yep.
getting purified. It's going through a filter.
So getting the water out of the oil.
Yeah,
gotcha.
and any gut.
Yep.
And that's it.
okay, yeah.
I think we'll when we store it, we're putting some like anti-bug stuff through the oil when we're storing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's about all that's happening to it, though.
So
right?
the process is basically raw veggie oil comes in from a fish and chip shop or something like that. We put biocide in it and neutralise anything that's in there, kill any bug and all that sort of stuff. Then we put it through a vacuum tank that dries it. So because we pull a vacuum on it, the water steams out of it. It can't physically
Yeah,
stay in
right.
suspension.
And we tried heat.
Yeah.
We tried a heat
Yeah,
system
that didn't
first.
work so well?
We just couldn't get the temperature
Yeah,
and the
right.
amount of energy, because we've got to have it on board. We've got to be able to
Do
the
it
oil
while you're
through on
going,
board.
yeah.
And it just would be too hard.
Yeah, there's no point having a onshore facility and then going, right, well, that's gone, now what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
So we put it through a vacuum tank that then takes the water out of the oil. And then from there we push it through with compressed air. We push it through a 1 micron filter.
Right.
So that's in the vacuum tank. It's pulled through a 10 micron filter.
Yep.
And into the
everyone,
vacuum tank.
everyone says 5's enough.
Yeah.
But we thought, well, we can do it to 1. It's just a wee bit slower, but it's
Yeah.
alright.
Through.
It's like going to 11, it's one louder.
Yeah.
It's like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
So so it's through down to a 1 micron filter at the end of that, and at that stage it gets pumped into the diesel tanks.
Yep.
And then when you go to use the oil, you've got to heat it up to 76 degrees Celsius or more, and then push it into your engine just as normal fuel at that stage.
And then that's all the way. So you heat at the start, and then but you have to heat your pipes and everything, don't you? To
Yeah, I
get
was just
it.
about to say it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Because on a boat, everything has to be heated to
the whole
maintain.
way. And when you did your tanks, you coated them because of the veggie oil as
a
well.
particular paint, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So there's a
because
fair bit of prep to get it happening.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an easy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
when
we
you
need
come
a
to
lot
Sydney,
too.
a lot as in you use more than.
Well, because of where we're going. We
Oh,
do-
right, just the distances as
Yeah,
opposed to.
we actually need to
do you
collect
burn per litre similar, comparable to diesel?
I don't know, is it?
There's a 4% difference in energy content.
Oh,
so
so
you'll
it's not
burn
much.
4%
It's nothing,
more.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
so
nothing.
yeah,
For something that's 90% cheaper,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
nothing, yeah. That's interesting. Oh, when you come to Sydney, my stepson runs a fish and chip shop. So
We'll do a collection.
Yeah, do a collection.
But just an asterisk on the end. It's an experiment. And,
Yes, yeah.
And there are lots of motors around the world.
So you're not committed.
Truck motors that have converted, particularly
Yeah.
like in Germany. It's almost a standard. Well, for
Right,
one of
okay.
one.
Yeah.
It's not that unusual, but it is for both.
Right, okay.
So it's an experiment, and
Yeah, see how it
It may
goes.
destroy our motor in the process, but we figure it's worth a shot. So
But it sounds like you've done your homework. So
yeah.
between the heating and Damien, we talked earlier in the engine bay about making sure the load's not too light on the engine. So
Yeah.
And is this your diesel or is this your? Do you have any veggie oil?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's actually gone off, so we're not going to use it. We used it.
Okay, it's
we
a shame.
collected it for experiments.
Yes.
And,
So this is the lab.
This is the lab. Yeah.
Interesting about the oil going off though. So you have to use it within a certain time if you bring it on board and treat it. If you make it as such, you know, you've definitely got to burn it.
Yeah, and
quickly.
like if it touches like a steel tank,
Yep.
the walls, it's oxidization.
Yeah, it'll
isn't it?
oxidize.
Okay, which is why you did the coating.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things, Okay.
So to make it last, but it doesn't last forever.
You can
Yeah,
you
okay.
can keep it, but you've got to be very specific about what you do to it. So you got to have it in basically no UV. It's got to be cold. It's kind of like, think about olive oil in a bottle in your kitchen.
Refrigerating it almost and just.
How do you stop it from going gross? You put it in the fridge and you put it in a dark room and
cool pantry or something. And well, at least your tank's no UV and being in contact with the seawater, it's cooled to some degree.
Yeah, definitely.
That's right. And just a second asterisk is we won't be using veggie oil down in
in Antarctica. Yeah.
So we'll use it as far down as we can go until the weather's against us, and then we'll use what's it called? It's
high
more
sulfur diesel.
isn't it? Yeah.
Right, high sulfur.
Yeah, so it's,
right, okay.
So basically sulfur is added to stop it from waxing.
Right.
So we get low sulfur diesel because we're in a hot climate.
Yes.
And
people don't want the smell.
And sulfur's crap for the environment.
Yeah.
But down there you need high sulfur diesel because your fuel will turn solid. It'll gel and
I remember when I was doing one of my marine courses, probably the Cox's course or something. There was a guy who was in the Merchant Navy, and he'd talk about times they'd get the oxytorch and just run it along the fuel lines to get the diesel to be liquid again. Well, actually, it was probably bunker oil in the tankers, and it was it's such a thick oil anyway that it would go solid.
Yeah.
And they literally had to melt it all first so they could fire the motors up and get it going.
It's a whole new way of thinking about engines for me.
Yes.
The heating, it's all about the heating and the.
Well, with the car, it's all about
how liquid the fuel is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about it really differently now.
Yeah. You just don't think about it. Getting you jump, turn the key.
Yeah.
Petrol, you just go.
And diesels, kind of tough. It's
well, that's it.
Fuel,
All right, so let's go around the back here. What's the back bit called again?
rear bow.
Rear bow, that's it.
Rear bow?
Blunt bit.
Stern.
Now that's a prop. So, what's going on here?
We're in the middle of business.
Business is happening.
Another thing I loved about the boat was this ginormous thing. I just think it's amazing. So the nozzles, most cruiser boats take it off, but we're going to use it because we need it for torque. We need it for power.
And why do they take it off?
Just because it's drag. Like
just efficiency. Yeah.
But we want to protect the bow against ice.
Prop.
Prop bow. Not the bow, not the
This
bow.
is the third bow. There's the blunt bow, there's the spinny bow, the pointy bow, and the blunt bow.
Oh God, I'm terrible with the words. So protection, but also that extra bit of torque at the, when we need it to get out of, away from something.
And pushing through ice, I guess, as well. So protecting it and giving you the thrust you need. Yeah.
Well, we will be able to push too. We will be able to push ice. Just not big bits. So they're called growlers, aren't they?
Yeah, we can. It sounds wrong, but we can push growlers.
We can push growlers.
I thought this was a family-friendly show.
So so we're holding on to that, and at the moment we've got we're redoing the rudder shaft and the bearings as well.
Yeah, I've just got my new one made up. I'm quite excited about putting that in now. Nice new stainless one.
Yeah, I can't wait. So
that's right, and you had the alignment thing.
That's right. Yeah, it was out of alignment. Yeah. So keep just burning through bearings.
Through bearings,
so once we figured that out, that was really good. So,
that was a good catch then.
Yeah. I'm glad we took it off. And we did it. Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so you just putting this back on, just get it.
Are you getting a new one made up? You're getting a new one made up, aren't you?
I'll get that one machined. Just skimmed a little bit because there's only about 40 thou wear on it, so I'll just skim 60 thou off and get another oversized bearing made.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Dame wanted to put wings on too on the rudder itself.
Oh, right.
Try and get some steering efficiency.
This is what you added.
Yeah. So you got your rudder blade itself, and then we added these wings, so you can sort of see it. The rudder is sitting basically on the back edge of the rudder, but these wings here will go horizontal, and it helps us actually lift the rudder on and off with a forklift. So there's a big one at the bottom and a big one at the top, and what they do is the top ones allow us to put the rudder easily on and off with a forklift, but when we've got the rudder turned 45 degrees or whatever it may be, you don't get tip vortex. So it means the flow of water doesn't try and rush underneath the rudder. It hits the wing and then gets directed to the back of the boat rather than underneath the rudder where you lose some of that efficiency. So it gives you a lot more low speed steering.
I've got to say, a lot of these things I look at and I go, oh, I should add that. But I'm really tempted to go a year without these things, a year without the nozzle, a year without it, without the wings, so that I've got some sense of the difference it makes. Otherwise, I probably, because I've only driven the boat really 2 days before it went on the hard stand, like not long at all. So I don't really have a memory of how well it turned and how much thrust there was. So it'd be great to live for a little while and then do some of these upgrades on a subsequent pull-out and then just see how much difference it makes.
Yeah, because you may not even need it.
No, but it'd be interesting to see, an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
Most private trawlers don't use nozzles.
Yeah.
So if they do have them, they normally take them off because it adds up just a fuel burn more than anything else.
Okay, fair enough. But maybe the wings on the rudder would be interesting.
Definitely the wings. They add no resistance really.
Yeah.
They basically give you low down steering.
Because this is a handful to do tight manoeuvring.
Yeah, sure.
It's amazing. I didn't realise how little clearance you had between the prop and the nozzle too. It's really tight.
You want it as tight as possible. So in this case, there's only, I don't know, maybe 4 mil between the tip, and that theoretically should be all the way around. So it takes a wee bit of work to build one of these nozzles because you've got to be incredibly precise. You've got to roll it and be really precise with where that blade is sitting.
Where's the bend the one where the shark went through?
Here.
Yeah.
So
it's a wee bit hard to see, but just in here, the tip, the leading edge of this blade tip is curved forward slightly because a shark went through, got cut in half, stalled the engine and bent the prop.
And died.
Yeah, I don't think the shark came out well out of that encounter.
It's not like a jellyfish, you know, with 2 sharks.
No.
Oh dear.
So we're actually going to put, for the ice, we're going to put bars on the front of the nozzle.
On the front of the nozzle, like a cage there.
Keel,
Ah, right, going that way.
But also
that makes sense.
many wildlife as well coming through.
Yeah, save them so you don't burn up any penguins or whatever on the way. Blend them up. Yeah. That's interesting, yeah, of course. So just keeping that angle for it to everything just deflects. That makes sense. And I've got to say, once again, as someone who comes from kind of a diving situation, a lot of dive boats will have a cage around the prop so the divers don't, hit them. Yeah. Normally when divers in the water, the prop's off, but, it never hurts to have that.
With a nozzle, it would be easy enough to put some bars on
the cage,
I like that idea, Dave.
Yeah.
Because the dive platform's going to be just at the back here.
Yes, so you're going to have a swim platform
going straight
there.
down underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose occasionally the motor.
So you're doing a board off the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'm definitely going to do it too because I'm definitely getting rid of the wet exhaust.
Yep.
I'm thinking, the only thing I don't have at the moment is a door in the transfer in the back at the moment.
You're about to do that, though, eh?
Thinking about it, but I also have visions of the back being a storage work area thing. But I think I think it's too big a compromise to lose that stern access to your swim board in.
If you're really into diving.
Exactly, yeah. So are you going to do a timber one or steel?
I think it's probably aluminium.
Right, okay.
But we've talked to lots of people and people say aluminium, if you get trapped under it, it can really hurt you and it comes up and down.
If it's bouncing. Because that's it, you can go for a dive on a nice day, suddenly the swell picks up and getting on a boat in a bit of swell's a challenge, for sure.
So I'm not sure yet. I think it's aluminium or wood.
Yeah, but you could, so the aluminium's obviously not heavy, it's more just rounded corners, is it? So
everything would be rounded,
Yeah, so I would have thought aluminium would be hurt less than timber, like a hardwood. I think would have more weight to it.
Yeah, maybe. So
as long as it didn't have sharp edges, I think it'd be all right.
Yeah, I like the idea of aluminium. I think it'd be less work to maintain it.
Yeah, totally.
Which I'm all for.
Yeah, low maintenance. And this is my near future. My wonderful new hull paint.
Yeah.
I realised, I was telling Damien before I left, I'd put one of those discs in my hull, the metal discs I made, and I realised I only welded the outside of one of them. So now I'm going to have to go and weld the inside and burn all my wonderful anti-foul and everything off in one spot. So, tears before bedtime. Although Jess was saying that she spoke to someone at the boatyard and said painting a boat and then cutting, grinding, welding is just a normal part of it.
You can't really coordinate yourself.
Don't sweat it.
Do it.
It happens all the time, even to the commercial guys. So we'll live.
One of Damiens' inventions.
Yes.
I'm hard of, I can't walk very well, and we used to love going for walks in the morning with the dog, and Dane said, let's just do it, and because we're going to be going some pretty interesting places, he wants me to be mobile enough to go with him.
So this could be Mish pulling, Damien pushing.
Maybe. Maybe we need more dogs.
Yeah, that's it. A husky team.
That's right, yeah. It's great to be. It's easy pushing, and Dame actually runs when he walks me. It's easy enough just to push and run. So,
Yeah.
and when Mish gets tired, he sits on top of me.
It's got big wheels that we leave at about 5 psi, so it's awesome on sand. It doesn't sink into the sand and stuff. You can drive over anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 3 inches wide, so they're really fat.
So this is the prototype. This is the test run, but it's working pretty well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it works good.
Dame will sort of fine tune as we go along and build a better
Although
one.
I said to
but-
David, I said, it doesn't have flames down the side. And he said, yet.
Well, you're thinking of putting a motor on this thing, aren't you?
Yeah, I was thinking of going ridiculous and putting 2 3 kilowatt hub motors into it so that we can get to ludicrous speed. Yeah.
Would you do wheelies? I suppose you wouldn't.
I think
Yeah, you were saying wheelie bars.
Yeah, I think not doing wheelies is the thing you try to attain. Yeah, doing
Actually.
wheelies I think is standard.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's how can we obtain non-wheelie?
Yeah.
So it's very comfortable. You recline in it, and
It
it's
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's actually really big when you just look at it like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You needed the width for the stability.
It does fit a person pretty well though. Like it's. Oh, and then when that wheel sits like that normally. Yeah. So it's quite sort of snug. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can 100% assure you I have no intention to drink lots of beer and get Damien to push me around the car park and it's later on.
Although that may happen.
There are no guarantees.
That's it, no guarantee. All right, so
Keel cooling.
your other side you said was gearbox and generator.
Yeah, so generator freshwater cooling and gearbox oil cooling.
Yep.
This is main engine freshwater cooling. So we don't have normally a boat will have, if it has raw water cooling, will have a seawater pump and like a heat exchanger.
Mm-hmm.
This is the equivalent of the heat exchanger.
Yep.
And we don't have a seawater pump. We have only freshwater cooling our engine. There's no seawater anywhere. So just the standard belt-driven pump on the front of the engine pushes water down into these pipes, and it does a big sort of loop
Yep.
circuit, and then comes back out from the circuit and back into this
Yep.
one, and then goes up into the engine. So this is probably overkill for what we need.
Yeah.
Definitely be overkill for what you're doing, but
Yeah,
a
yeah.
smaller version would work.
Smaller version of it, yeah.
And the beauty of this is, again, like you can completely encapsulate this in weed, and it still transfers the heat. You know,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard to break it. There's next to no moving parts.
Yes, that's it, yeah.
And you don't have any thin metals that can corrode out. And
It's
cause
funny actually, just squatting down here is the first time I've seen just how much this front end protection, is angled and how, it's pretty bulletproof. So you've got twin, so it comes out into two
So
pipes?
it comes out in one, and then splits into two.
Yep.
And then heads down there.
Oh,
Heads down
right,
these
the
two.
manifold.
There's a join here, so that's
Oh,
blocked
okay.
off.
Oh, that is blocked off,
It heads down to this one, goes all the way to the back of the boat, goes up to the side, heads down this one here, goes down, hits that wall,
comes
gets
in.
pushed back down that one, across, and then back up into
Back
this
it
one.
in, nice.
So it's doing a big zigzaggy sort of circle the
So
whole
it
way
does.
around.
Does quite a few metres of run before it goes back in.
And this is designed, so this cooling system is designed to have a 400 horsepower engine at full throttle consistently to tow
In warm water.
at about 3 knots in warm water.
Yeah.
So if you're trawling, you're only doing sort of 3 knots or so, 2-3 knots.
Yeah.
But you've got your engine absolutely flat out most of the time, like 80%
Just
throttle.
pulling the weight.
Yeah, so it's designed to basically keep the engine cool at that sort of strain level.
Yeah. Straight
Heat
to-
exchangers are always a weak part of the system. I think anyway. My opinion is that they are a weak part of the system because you've got really thin wall metal.
Yes.
Because you need the thin wall metal to transfer the heat.
transfer the heat,
So you've only got a very small system to get hot at one end and cold at the other. So they have to be super efficient, and they do that with like thin wall metal, which is then susceptible to corrosion because it's normally things like copper or aluminium and stuff that gets corroded pretty fast. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, my thoughts are always towards how do you build something, how do you over-engineer it, and therefore put more piping in, build it thick wall. It may not be as efficient as a thin wall pipe, but just put more pipe in.
Yeah, just put more. Yeah. No, that's you've really just seeing how robust it is.
Yeah.
And how one less pump, no salt water going through. Like it's.
And again, 60-ton trawler laid on this when this
Sat on it, yeah.
and there's no dramas. They lift these in and out of the water, and they get squashed with straps and all sorts.
So the straps from the travel lift or whatever.
Yep.
And as you say, whenever you see all the commercial guys doing it,
Yeah.
you kind of go,
Yeah, it
"All
works."
right." It works, yeah.
Yeah.
And it works reliably.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're boating, what would you say your mate had like 340 days of fishing in a year?
Huge,
And yeah.
So there's two main types of keel cooling that people use. So there's this type which you've got pipes raised off the hull.
Yep.
And then you've got another one where they get like a C-section and they'll weld it to the hull.
Oh, okay, yep.
The trouble with the C-section, and a lot of the commercial guys here are converting from that to this.
To this, yeah.
The trouble with the C-section is because it's got hot and cold,
Yep.
like quite close together, it burns the paint off the inside of the hull.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so you often end up rusting your hull out from the inside
okay.
because you've got that constant heat
Interesting.
going on.
Okay.
By doing this, it's a wee bit harder to anti-foul this way because you've got
Of course.
to, get
yes,
barnacles
get
and
right
stuff
in,
off.
yeah.
But efficiency and longevity, it's significantly better.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. And you've got a bung here for the bilge, like right at the bottom of the keel.
That's the lowest point in the
Yeah.
bilge.
Right, and so there's a bulkhead just behind there,
So
is
there's a
there?
There's the engine bay above, isn't it?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a bulkhead here which is the freezer room.
Yep.
And there's a bulkhead here which is under the engine, and then the engine has plates that welded underneath it about here. You can sort of see the welds
Yeah, yeah,
randomly sticking
yeah.
up. And then in here is full of oil. In here is full of cement. And then this is just the lowest part where the
Because I don't have that. I
Bilge
don't have a bung, a drain for mine. And I was actually, when I was doing the hull, I was like, I should put one in. And I was kind of a bit, am I coming from a tinny background? Am I thinking small boat? Does anyone ever do this?
all the commercial boats have this.
Have they?
or a
Yeah.
version of this, yeah.
Because I've spent a lot of time getting water, like if I degrease and gurney the engine bay,
Yeah.
I've then got to pump all that water
Yeah.
out. So that's, you kind
Yeah.
of sold me now,
Just throw a stainless
Yeah.
nipple in there and a bung. And,
do it well.
And don't
Just
do it
make sure the
small.
weld's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't do
yeah.
it small. So my advice would be if you're going to put one in, don't do a 1/2 inch bung. do a 3-inch bung, or
scale it up appropriately.
Yeah.
And when you put the bung in, does it have a locking mechanism to make sure it doesn't wind itself out? Or
No, just
torque it up.
There's a couple of schools of thought. So you put your pipe sealant on, the liquid gel
Right,
stuff,
yeah.
screw it in. That stuff sets pretty well. Then you've got your anti-foul over
the
top
top,
of it.
yeah.
So you do have a layer that's sort of going to hold it.
Gonna lock it in,
there.
yeah.
Although in saying that, if you're really worried, you can always just tap a tack on the top of it or something, so that you can just nick it off. with a
Grind it off
grinder.
later, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
All
one.
of this for us is going to be cut off when we go to the ice.
Yes,
So we're
yeah.
going to be moving to what's called a sea chest.
Yep, yep.
So basically internal cooling. It's similar to
Yeah.
this, but it's all inside the boat.
Yeah,
So
yep.
because we have to protect from ice, so everything has to go.
And we've got plenty of room in the engine bay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, when you cut it off, just post it to me. It's as long as the boat.
Put it in an express post bag.
Yeah. 5 kilo.
Yeah.
Test Australian Post, really.
Yeah.
All right, we can't finish the tour without a little see
around.
look at the accommodation. So
So this is our kitchen.
Yep.
The boat at this point is about 4 meters wide. This bench
Yeah,
is
right.
3.5 meters
Wow.
from side to side, so it goes almost the full width of the boat. And then over here we've put in. This is basically just a temporary kitchen set up so that we can figure out what works.
Yeah.
Live on the boat and actually use it and find out what we like. So we're gonna be leaving the cooktop here. We've got a little oven down here we're going to get rid of, and we're going to move it over to this part. So this is a little breakfast bay thing that we made. We're going to put an oven underneath it and then box this all in with cupboards and so on. Fridge will stay where it is. So the kitchen itself is pretty functional. It works really well. We've been really happy with it. We're probably not going to do too many more changes to it. Now it's just a case of cleaning it up and actually making everything, stainless benches and finish it off.
So the ply is like the prototype version, and then
This is I think the 4th version that we've had.
Right.
So we started off with like U kitchens. And we had 2 benches, and it stopped here, and we tried all sorts of different stuff. In fact, we actually found we had a kitchen bench that came down here, and then flies. Welcome to Australia.
Yeah.
A kitchen bench came down here, and then across the end here, and then sort of came back up here. And we found with the U shape, you couldn't access the corners at all.
Right, you couldn't reach.
So it became really. You only had a small area to work with, so when we cut it out, we thought we'd lose heaps of space, but by cutting it out, we gained a huge
amount.
more
That's
usability.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and then we can also have, like, we've got, drawers over here, and we've got a, washing machine, etc. And like, we just couldn't do that before because it just the layout didn't work for it. So having the 2 separate benches has been a godsend.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Be an easy mistake to make, thinking you've got more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think more bench space, therefore it's going to be better.
Yeah.
But it's actually
not,
becomes
yeah.
the other way. Yeah. So then we've got our accommodation. So this is one of our spare cabins. It's in a bit of a pigsty at the moment, but We've got basically a sea berth up the top here and then another single bed down the bottom. I am considering with this one of even shortening it up towards the feet end more and putting another one of these sort of seaboards
so
on.
you can both be at sea with it.
Yeah. But they're great. They're really comfy. This is the first of 2 layers of insulation. So Brupeg, because we're going to the ice, we need to have 120 mils of insulation on all external walls. So this is 60 mil. We're going to add another 60 mil coming down, so the room will close in a wee bit.
Yep.
But you know, when it's minus 40 degrees outside, no one really cares about being a little bit compact. And then this is just our room in here. So again, a bit of a pigsty, but this is this was a temporary bed that we just kind of knocked together to see what we like in terms of layout. It's the full width of the room and then basically tapers off. So now we're really happy with this. We're going to sort of sort out a proper one. We'll go through and insulate this room. We'll just move out of this room pretty much and then go through and finish it. But we do have a policy of kind of knock up something temporary and then live with it for a bit and see if we like it before we go and build something permanent. And then we'll do floor to ceiling cupboards sort of behind me and on that side. We'll do a little bit of a wardrobe sort of on this end of the bed. So where we've got this, I just made a little temporary stainless wardrobe. We're going to put a proper one in here as well, and then change the door around so that the door's more functional and works better. But so this is, we've had a few different layouts. We used to have the bed sort of tucked into this corner over here, and having this way we end up with a lot more flat usable space.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. No, I like your system of living with the temporary version for a while. That makes sense to me. When I started doing the preliminary design for my electrics, a couple of people jumped on and said, what about battery monitoring? And I definitely have something organised for that. I've been talking to someone about a particular unit, and Damien's got his unit here in the galley. And I think it's a really good idea. Like, I think my default choice would have been, I'll put it in the wheelhouse as an instrument. But I can see where when you're at anchor for a while, and there's no real reason to go in the wheelhouse, particularly on this boat, this is where you need to be monitoring how much electricity you've got. This is where a lot of your high current draw devices are and everything. So I think having this prominently displayed in a living space is a really good way to go. I'm impressed with that. Well, that wraps up our tour of Brupeg. It's great, this boatyard here. They've got these big studios for filming in. They may also use them for sandblasting or something, I don't know. I'll be in Bundaberg for another couple of days, so we'll probably film a second video, maybe a bit of a Q&A session, so we'll get that up maybe during the week. But when I get back, obviously just straight into my boat. Pretty motivated now, having seen all the great work Damien and Jess have done, particularly some of the ideas for the electrics, the keel cooling, the hinges for the doors, all that kind of stuff. So it's given me a lot of inspiration for getting back into those jobs at home. Can't thank Damien and Jess enough for hosting while I'm here, showing me the boat and looking after me. I can't recommend enough you check out their channel, which is Project Brupeg. They've got almost 100 videos on all the work they've done so far on the boat, and there's loads of details in those if you want to check it out. All right, well, take care. I'll catch you soon. See ya.